Hello, everyone, and I am joined by Aiden at the Bull Moose Project. How are you doing today, sir?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
And our guest has joined us to discuss the importance of organization for politics, getting people with the right organizations, fundraising techniques for local positions, and that's what his organization is about. Can you kind of explain to us what your organization does?
So the goal of the Bull Moose Project is to find, develop, and train conservatives who share our values, of course, to run for office, especially local office. And the reason for that is because it is important for people in our movement to not just pay attention to federal politics, but push the same values, beliefs, goals in their local communities.
Excellent. That's something we desperately need. I think if that's the one thing that we desperately lack is organizations, PACs, groups who organize politicians and future leaders at states and federal level.
Mhm.
Which is partially why the left is so successful over the right. Is just that they just have these organizations down pat, and of course they're supported by the elites, but they just have the organizations there that the right just does not have. Um, and
Mhm.
the organizations that we do have are terrible, centrist or even left leaning to a large degree, supporting neoconism or some other ideology that's not going to suit our long term goals. If you see what I'm saying there.
Yeah, no, exactly. And something the progressives have always been good at is organizing. Um, the A lot of the upcoming progressive politicians have been organizers, community organizers. I'm sure that the local Democratic parties are, fairly prepared for that kind of endeavor, whereas on the Republican side, a lot of the local parties, the county parties, are dying, and a lot of people are not engaged. And one aspect we're trying to pick up on is when you recruit somebody to run for office, you are recruiting somebody to advance goals and ideas and rhetoric, and ultimately engage people to come out and vote. And that's one of the best ways to build up local advocacy, local engagement, is to get candidates who inspire the people in the area they live to come out and get involved. And ultimately, we believe our message is something that inspires people, and can inspire people to get involved. And so you're achieving not only possibly legislative goals, you're achieving a grassroots goal.
Yeah, that's something we desperately need more of. People who know what they're doing, because we see a lot of these younger conservatives like Matt Hellman in North Dakota recently, who's been really successfully just introduced a bill to ban sanctuary cities in North Dakota. I believe that passed.
Mhm.
But the biggest problem that people our age have is that they understand, they get it, so to speak. They're red pilled, but they don't have the political skills to navigate the system with elections. That's what stops most of them from ever advancing far enough to make effective change.
Mhm. No, you're exactly right. And a large part of the failure of a lot of candidates in 24 was because they didn't have experience, whether that was experience running for office before or being involved with the campaign, anything like that. It matters, and younger people have even an even harder time, especially when they do run for office, because people don't take young um, politicians, I guess, for lack of a better term, seriously. Matt is fantastic. I think he's in his early 20s. Chris Lonsdale, who just got elected to the state house, is in his mid 20s. Riley Keaton, West Virginia state delegate, mid 20s, I believe. These are young guys, and they are pushing for conservative values, and they actually did get elected, and they're doing a lot of great work for their communities. So it is possible to build up that base relatively early on and then use that base to get involved in the future.
Definitely, that's extremely white pilling to see. Some of these guys getting in there, kind of replicating what we've seen with the Justice Democrats and some of their younger members getting in.
Mhm.
Um, Kind of on the based opposite side of that.
Yeah, no, exactly. The Justice Democrats and Run for Something and a few of these other groups, they do a really good job at recruiting progressives. There are even a bunch of organizations focus on identity groups. There's a couple that focus on women or you know BIPOC women or something like that. Um, we want to be that that kind of group for quote unquote base people, right? We want real conservatives to run for office. We want real conservatives to have those resources, to know that they have a support network behind them that's willing to take a stand with them and help them out in whatever way we can. So it's definitely our goal for sure.
Yeah, part of reaching that goal is effective organization and conferences. And I heard you're putting on a conference in DC in April
Yeah,
to kind of
yeah,
raise up this class of younger people.
exactly. In our conference, it's we have a pretty wide range of people there. We have people as young as 17 to I believe around 45. It's not just young people. It definitely is a very large component of younger people. I think that's because of who our message resonates with, and how connected we are on social platforms that a lot of younger people use. But there definitely is support for change within a little bit older, more solidified economically, financially, demographic. And what we're hoping to do is give these attendees the knowledge necessary to start a campaign confidently and navigate that space, making as little errors or missteps as possible so they can maximize their chance of coming out of a primary victorious and, of course, a general election victorious as well.
Definitely. And part of that is having the right issues to excite the base, so to speak. Because we really have to like stop holding out these platitudes of the 2016 party platform and like tax cuts to motivate the base to come out. Like that's not enough anymore. Um,
Right.
I think we really saw that with the midterms here, which were supposed to be this massive red wave, and I thought it was too. I believed it. Um, Joe Biden was extremely most unpopular, one of the most unpopular presidents now. I believe even more than Trump was at this point in his presidency.
Mhm.
Inflation, stagnation, border crisis, social chaos, and his party came on top of the midterms, and it really showed you just like how Republicans are just amazing at screwing up every opportunity given at them to achieve advances against the other side.
Yeah, I mean the midterms. There's no way around it, right? It was super disappointing, and I mean, tax cuts are. I mean, I think they're generally a good thing, for people. Um, but you need more than that. You need a vision. You need something to go out and say, this is a problem. We are actually going to fix it for you, and not talk about something and fail. And Republicans, unfortunately, have a very strong history of campaigning on things and then failing to actually do those things when they have power, like with Obamacare, right? There was no repeal, let alone replacing it. Um, and Republicans ran on that for something like a decade, right? And you finally get a trifecta, and one of your biggest priorities doesn't happen. It's ridiculous and it's indefensible, regardless of whether or not you agree with the Affordable Care Act or the really intricate policy details of Obamacare, the fact that they campaigned on something for so long, had the opportunity to do what they said they were going to do and failed, isn't really going to inspire confidence in Republican voters. Um, and so there are ways to carry out smaller policy initiatives and take credit for it, but we're never going to get a Republican president or a Republican majority if there isn't a cohesive vision of things that we can accomplish and a plan ready to accomplish it in the first place.
Along with a plan, we also like have to use power. Like we have to get rid of this like notion that these Republicans like insistently cling on to about their principles about like not using power in small government. Meanwhile, the left is like using the FBI and and the CIA to like hunt down, conservatives, broad terms here, but like to punish their political enemies essentially with power, um,
Mhm.
with these federal agencies. And Republicans, the best we got is Ted Cruz grilling the CEO of Google. But that's not enough. Like you have to use political power if you actually are going to achieve positive change for the American people. Otherwise, you're just a LARPer. That's all you are.
Mhm.
And that's not going to inspire the middle class, the white working middle class, to come out and vote for you, or Hispanics, or blacks, or Asians, because they see that you're just a failure. You're just faking it. You're not actually going to do anything meaningful.
Yeah, and there's no point in having power if you are not willing to use that power to achieve certain ends, right? And the Republican Party has not inspired a whole lot of confidence in me that it is willing to achieve ends. And so what we had was a cycle where Democrats would come in, they would do a fair amount of stuff. Republicans might oppose it. Depending on the certain situation, it may pass despite that, or actually go into some kind of negotiation. And but then when Republicans would get in charge, they just sat there. They didn't do anything. What's the point in being elected to run the government if you don't do anything? Literally nothing. Barely even repealing what had been done before, let alone passing stuff from your own policy platform. And it's a huge, huge, huge problem. Something that definitely needs to be fixed in the mindset of Republican elected officials and some grassroots groups.
Yeah, you have to use power. Otherwise, what is the point of you occupying power? Like, you can't continuously play a game of chicken. Like, eventually, you're going to lose that against the other side who is willing to use power. And
Mhm.
also, just go back to motivating the base. Like, if you're a Democrat, if you have a Republican and a Democrat, and you see that your party, the Democrats, always advance your policy goals, and like will suppress the other side, and nothing ever happens to them, but
Mhm.
the
Yeah,
Republicans in reverse, when they get in charge, nothing meaningful ever happens to their side. Their side still gets taken off social media, debanked, deplatformed, demonized in society.
right.
Domestic terrorists, FBI investigating mothers at school boards. Like, why would you be enthused to vote for your party? You can't even like protect you against the overreaches of the other side. Like, it's just a motivation game too. That's also a major factor here.
Yeah, and I think we'll have some good voices. I'm very confident in Senator Vance in being a proactive voice. And going back to the sanctuary cities bill, um, Matt was being very proactive with that bill. I don't believe there was any movement for sanctuary cities um, within North Dakota, but just because something isn't happening does not mean you can just wait until it does, right? So what he did was he ended up writing a bill that banned sanctuary cities and a couple of other things, um, like universities allowing known undocumented immigrants to be on their premises and enrolled and things like that. Um, and he got it passed at least in the state house. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's okay for Republicans to take the initiative on things. You don't just have to wait for for a problem to show up to fix that problem. You can be a little bit proactive.
Yeah, if your side is only defined by reacting to the other side without actually putting out your own ideas, or being proactive to change things, all you ever will be was just being defined as being the opposition to the left, which is a terrible position to be in because it's all you're going to be defined by.
Hmm. No, exactly. And at the Bull Moose Project, we are finding people who want to be proactive, and giving them those resources to be proactive with policy in the future.
That's an excellent thing. So some of those future proactive policy goals for Blue Moose candidates might be something like breaking up BlackRock, for example, who are buying up tons of real estate and houses that Gen Zers and millennials like me can't afford a house anymore.
Hmm.
To start a family, which contributes to the local economy. It goes beyond that, like also the local social organizations, like having families. What is a country but a large collection of families? And if your society isn't having families, your society is by definition dying. Um,
Right.
so
No,
that you must do something proactive to stop that. Um,
yeah, and a lot of our people and even a lot of Republicans have been focusing on interesting stuff, a lot of education stuff, right? I believe Governor DeSantis is looking at banning foreign ownership of land, which I know for a fact is going to be an issue in this upcoming Congress. And these are good steps. Um, with BlackRock, I think there will be action taken to limit the use of these big companies buying up houses and renting them out. I think it will be a problem. But you don't just need federal legislation for that. Local zoning boards and city councils and stuff can pass regulations like that as well. Um, and I think it's important that we get people on those boards to make those decisions. And even if they pass it and get sued, you know, oh well, right? It's a risk that we have to take, to try and achieve real policy results, so we can end up taking them to the state level, to the federal level, and have a clear idea of how they work and how to make them better in the first place.
yeah, it's like how DeSantis like sets the tone for other conservative governors, and you kind of see this relationship between Florida and Texas now, where Florida sets the lead and Abbott a couple weeks later follows behind. In most cases, kind of like with a watered down version of that, but we need those people who define what the conservative vision should be at the state and local level, because that will define what the other conservatives do, and kind of shift their version of the Overton window for what is and what is not acceptable.
Right.
Um,
No, exactly. That's exactly right.
and part of that is taking local action because the state of the local GOPs. Let's talk about that first. It's run by boomers and older millennials who are out of touch, and most of them are on Facebook. And like, I get it, our parents use Facebook. It's okay. They're Gen Xers and boomers, but like, they're extremely out of touch and like don't understand the societal issues that we're facing in the big picture and long term here. Um, and they're more focused on like their own tax cuts and 401k, which is good for them. But like, we're worried about the future generations here in the state of our society thriving into the future. So like it's like a different mindset, and that's why you need young blood in there to like get things going to change. And there's just like there is that need for more young people there. As you were talking about local precinct captains there, it's like just show up. If you just show up, you're eventually going to be trusted with the position of minor power in your local county, city, or municipality. That's a good place to start.
Hmm. Yeah, it's not hard to get involved. You do just have to show up, and there are a lot of organizations that push for that. I know I've seen groups like Turning Point Action has a precinct officer push. Republicans for National Renewal, I believe, also does something similar. And then, of course, there are a million other Republican or conservative organizations that somebody can get involved in. You just need to pick one or pick several and go and talk to those people and get involved. And it's really it's an excellent way to build skills like public speaking, to build a more local network before you decide to do anything else. It doesn't hurt at all.
No, in fact, it's needed. We got to step out of the bounds of like, it's great to just talk about federal politics and like elite ideas here, but like you actually have to do something local too. Like you can do something local. It doesn't have to be just like House, governorship, or the president. Like you can do something local on your level, which will have an impact on your community that you can see in front of your own eyes, which is an immense benefit.
Mhm.
Knowing that you're actually helping your people and community thrive compared to where they were previously with people who were interested in that or didn't care.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. I mean, like I said before, a lot of our state or local and state guys are relatively young, in their 20s, early mid 20s most of the time. And, you know, a, a lot of young people are mixed. There are a fair amount of young conservatives, Republicans that are a little more liberal still. Um, but there are also a fair amount that think similar to us, and they are beginning to understand what time it is and the things that we need to push for. And so to all the young people, I say, don't be discouraged. Get involved. I know we're hoping to move regionally, so we definitely want to see more people show up to our events and learn the skills we want them to learn. But you also don't have to wait for us. You can get involved in any number of groups and pick up on the basic organizing skills, public speaking, who do you need to know in your political environment, things like that. It's very, very important to be tuned in to your local politics.
It is because that's the area where you can make the biggest impact. Or like you don't have these issues of like being owned by PACs or corporations or countries, essentially, before you even
Mhm.
get into Congress. I believe Matt Gaetz had a story of like when he first got into Congress and they went to this dinner and the PACs and lobbyists were already there offering them money for positions on House committees if they just like signed the contract. You know what I mean? So it's like these bigger political issues are important, these bigger power positions, but like there's also these other factors that you need to think about that like just aren't really present at local level, and you can see the changes immediate instead of being extremely slow and hampered by this massive bureaucratic machine that is the United States government.
Yeah, and there's a very old saying. It's been around for a long time. All politics is local. Um, you have to remember that. You have to drill that into your head. All politics is local. These members of Congress, even the very, very national ones, people that get a ton of national attention, um,
The
are
Freedom Caucus people, yeah. Mm.
yeah, Freedom Caucus people. They still regularly talk to their local Republican Party, to local conservative groups, and the people involved in them. They are always 100% of the time, at least ideally, connected to their district. And one of the reasons that we saw AOC win her primary against one of the top Democrats in the House was because this guy, this congressman, completely lost touch. And when you lose touch, um, it's easy to misrepresent your community and your values and things like that. And when people don't feel like they can express their frustrations to you in a productive way, they will vote against you and they will turn on you. Um, and so local politics is important for building skills, for building connections, um, but also just for staying in tune and making sure you can continue to build your base of support. These members of Congress, they don't really legislate that much, honestly. Um, it's a lot of times their staff, which is why it's important for the staff to be good. But these members spend a lot of time talking to conservatives from their district, calling people who donate to them, things like that. It's not really what people think it is. But when you have somebody come up that is connected, that knows the people they're supposed to know, and is willing to put in the work to win, they have huge chances to get something done.
No, they really do. Um, because a lot of these people at your state and local level are extremely disconnected people, and they want to retire, most of them, but like there's isn't the young people there to replace them, so they just kind of sit there for like decades upon decades. We saw that famous case in like 2021 in New Jersey, where this like just truck driver with like $200 beat this like I forgot how long he was there for, a 20-year incumbent of the New Jersey State Senate who's extremely corrupt, and just beat him with $200.
Yep.
Now that's an extreme case, but that shows you what disconnection to the people of your district actually does, and like presents an opportunity for us to move into that space that isn't being represented.
Yeah, and honestly, that I believe it was Ed Durr, right? He
Yes, it
just
was that
showed up.
direct.
He just showed up. You know, he filed his paperwork, and he showed up, and people responded to that. A lot of these incumbents are hard to beat. That's just a general rule. But you just got to show up, and sometimes you can pull off a really crazy win like that. That was insane.
No, it truly was. That's what makes America so great, is that we have things like that happen. Um, Not so great now because of the state of our elite class, which is terrible. I think some of our biggest focuses should be on like trying to help the American people actually thrive and have families, stopping immigration by building the border wall. I'm in favor of building two border walls now. I think we need like a Great Wall of China there, honestly, and the military permanently there. Like whatever solution we have to do, because if we can turn the tap on, we could turn the tap off, and we've done that throughout history. Up until like 1965, when our immigration system was like taken control by these hostile actors and the government with the Hart-Celler Act, and that can be undone if there's serious people actually willing to do that, because mass immigration has never been popular among the American people. If
Hmm.
you just look at the polls, that the vast majority of them, I believe, like 80% or more, are opposed to it because they see what it does. It makes their communities more dangerous. It floods the labor market with cheap labor for these mega companies, lowers wages, and like it has a social effect too, because when you flood a town with foreign people, and the native people of that town have to go because they're a minority now, it's like you forever change the culture and people of that town forever. It's like the
Right.
social implications of this are immense, and it goes beyond the economics. But it has to be a major focus here if we're ever going to actually win, because if you just look at the state of demographics and voting, like we're on track to be a one-party state forever, pretty much, unless something is done here.
Yeah, and yeah, it's funny, you know, my name is it's Italian. My last name is Italian, and when you look at the Civil War, the all the Ellis Island people were treated like shit, and eventually assimilated for the most part. There's still remnants of celebrating heritage and things like that, which is a little bit different. Um, but no, Americans have never really liked immigration. It just always kind of happened. And one of the very first laws in the United States was a very, very restrictive immigration and citizenship law. It's something that I think Americans are willing to do when they see that it hurts them. And then I think that if Republicans do a good job of at messaging that, yes, the current system is hurting you. It hurts your standard of living. It hurts your job. It hurts just about anything that impacts your daily life. Then people will change their minds, and it does require getting rid of a little bit of the dogma that's dominated the party regarding the GDP and markets. I think there's merit to having economic growth, and I think it's good, but it can't come at the cost of a shared nation, shared culture, ways of life that has to take priority. Um, because countries that are prosperous but have no internal community will fall apart. And I would honestly rather live in a slightly poor country, at least on paper, right? Because it doesn't always translate with a shared community, culture, nation, history, language, flag, than a extremely prosperous on paper country that has where nobody has anything in common with each other at all.
Yeah, and I'll give you an example of this. Like, Poland was under occupation by the Soviets for 80 years, and they had communism and the forces of that imposed upon their society for that long. But as soon as the Iron Curtain receded, yes, they were a poor country, but they still were Poland. That didn't magically disappear when they became communists. They still existed beyond the ideological veil there.
Mhm.
However, demographic change is something that historically nations have never recovered from once that fully goes on. And there are many examples of that. We see this with the Roman Empire, for example, being changed by the German or barbarian immigrations there. So this is a fundamental issue that is like society defying here. And it's either
Yeah.
you do something about it or you die, essentially, as a society and culture, and you're replaced with another one.
Mhm. Yeah, population movements and all that stuff. I mean, there's a lot of historical examples, and without a doubt, it means change. Humanity is never static; everything changes, but the rate of change is really, really what's at stake. Is the way our population has been going? It's not stable. I think the rate of people we've been taking in, it's not stable. It's not conducive to keeping the nation together. And we made an effort. We used to make an effort, at least, to assimilate the people that we did have. Um, the Poles, the Italians, the
The
Irish,
Germans, yes.
the Germans, and there's a lot of regional variation. Texas German, Pennsylvania Dutch. There's regional quirks, and regional quirks are fine. I mean, when you bring in a bunch of Germans and you stick them in an area together, they're going to be German for a long time. Uh, that's just kind of how it works. But you can use the functions of government to promote being American and bring them into the fold. But what we have now is it's not just groups, a couple hundred people, a couple thousand people here or there that kind of congregate in the same area. We have millions of people flooding in, undocumented, on top of the million people a year or more that we take in legally, that all congregate. And then we have media and political rhetoric that says it's okay not to be American. It's okay not to share anything in common with the people who lived here. And in fact, if they complain about it, then they're racist, and you should feel, oppressed and take it out on them. That kind of stuff is not good. It's not good for the country.
Well, even beyond that, the narrative demonizes the majority group of America. It says that white Americans are evil, they're colonizers, therefore it's okay to destroy the fabric of their social society that they built and replace it with ours, and that's a good thing because we're evil for the sins of slavery or something like this. So this narrative they push is actually destructive and will cause deaths if it's just allowed to continue to be propagated like it is,
Mhm.
because it is a fundamentally destructive ideology.
Yeah, no, I have a lot of reservations about the way our immigration system is going. Um, a lot of fears, and a lot of people say some things will never happen, and they'll say it over and over again, and then one day you wake up and it is. Um, I think it's important for Republicans to be very strong on not just the border, but really talking about the dangers, and the huge drawbacks that are present, with our current system, our current rate of immigration, and how it hurts Americans financially, culturally, um, really just kind of about every metric: houses, jobs, um, cost of services, things like that.
If you want to know the future of what this will look like, we can look to the state of California, which, in case you weren't aware, for California, for the majority of California's history, it was actually a bastion of Republican conservatism in America. Um, I believe from 1925 to 1988, it voted the Republican the majority of the time. And now that's unthinkable and it wouldn't happen. Why? Demographic change and cultural takeover of the institutions there. And that should be a cautionary tale for every single state in America of what will happen if this process is allowed to continue the way it is. Your state is not safe, and they will take it over, and that's what they're planning to do. You
Mhm.
can't sit by passively and say because you live in a red state that you're safe. You're not safe. They're coming for Texas. They're coming for Arizona. They're coming for Florida, and they're going to do whatever it takes to turn them blue forever. You need to wake up to this fact. It just is
Yeah,
a fact.
and education is one of the big areas, where conservatives in red states have, failed. I um, I know this for a fact. A lot of red states, or red counties will say, or they'll look at their school board very, very uncritically, because they think this area is so Republican, nothing could ever happen here. That's just a lie. And they will wake up one day and they will realize it's a lie and that it's too late to fix it. Um, which is, why it's so important to be engaged at that local level, because it's never safe. You have to be vigilant and you have to see what people are doing and what people are promoting.
Society is not passive. Unfortunately, I wish we could still live in the 1950s. I'm sorry, but that world doesn't exist anymore. You can't just grill in like California that it'd be safe and wonderful. Everything's going good. That world is gone, and we live in a fundamentally different reality with different struggles and difficulties that we must overcome here. So the situation of the moment calls for different solutions than it would have in the 1950s and 60s due to the progression of the rot in this country. So if we want to stop the rot, things are going to have to change. And the mindset of if we just grill and we just lower taxes and we just push for moderate conservatism, we're going to win. The silent majority is on our side. Was the silent majority there in 2022? No. The silent majority does not exist anymore. Um, it's been hollowed out and destroyed. So
Exactly.
we have to get rid of the copes that are holding us back because they're harmful.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Um, yeah, unfortunately, I've got to head out.
All right, is there anything you'd like to show before you kind of hang out today to our audience?
Yeah, if you're interested in getting involved, I would love to be able to speak with you. You can go to our website, bullmanproject.org, and reach out through there, or email me, Aiden at bullmanproject.org. We really want to start building our movement. We want to build our movement in a way that keeps it solvent, even after Donald Trump is gone. So, if there's anything I might be able to help with, I love connecting with people and talking with them.
Indeed, if you're interested, please reach out to their stuff. They do great work, and check out their links in the description. With that being said, remember everyone, the light can't last forever. Keep your hopes